Most of us have two lives, the life we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. Did you want to introduce a couple, Steven Pressfield?
Yes, I'll go through some quotes. I really love this one. It was, "We cannot control the level of talent we've been given. We have no control over the nature of our gift. What we can control is our self-motivation, self-discipline, self-validation, and our self-reinforcement." And what I really like about Pressfield, and I was talking to Amanda about this before the show, but when he was a kid, he said, I wasn't like some kind of English genius or something. He said, I did okay at English. Like, I didn't grow up thinking I'm going to be a successful author. He said it just, he found that along the way. And he said, I'm not particularly talented, but I do, really do my best every day to push against that resistance. And he's a successful author who's written many books that have been, bestsellers. But he said, still he faces resistance every single day. And the difference, I think, of what's made him so successful is that, maybe there are people out there with more talent than him, but they can't overcome that adversity, that resistance. So it's quite nice to hear because, I'm sure we all sit there sometimes going, I wish I was successful as, I don't know, Bill Gates or as talented as Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, whatever. But it's nice to think, and there's an equality in that we can all overcome resistance and, be self-disciplined and self-validating. That's nice to hear because, there's some things that we're not going to be talented at, and that's just our lot in life. So,
Right. I think
what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's the other key part of that quote, I think, though, is not only do you have to beat resistance, but you have to accept the talent you've been given and go with those, because I think so often, I'm sure I have done it, and I'm sure most people have at some point, you resist your natural talent and you chase something else, maybe because, it seems like sexier or it makes more money or it's just easier to do or whatever. So I guess that is the resistance, is that you are resisting your natural calling. But that was the other key part of that quote to me, is that only facing resistance only works if you are doing that in conjunction with following or using your natural talents, like figuring out what your natural talents are and then going with it, whether that's what you want to do or not, or whether that's what you had in mind that your life was going to be or not.
Yeah, I think that's true. We do chase the sexier thing, which it's funny, isn't it? Like if you really sat there and cultivated your talents and put them into whatever you want to do, you'd be a lot more successful than if you tried to cultivate areas that are not strengths at all. I think you need to spend that time thinking about your abilities. Like, I'd look at it, for example, I would say I'm not particularly good at writing. I've never been good at writing. I enjoy writing sometimes, but I'm not great at it. I'm probably better, speaking, I think. Like, it's funny. I can probably get a point across a lot more eloquently, whether it's in a speech or whether it's, in a podcast or an interview or something, because I don't know, that's something I'm good at. But so, what's the point of me continuing to try and hone this craft of writing when it's not my talent? Like, maybe I just need to find a platform to speak. Maybe it's easier,
We are working on that too.
And I'd say you'd be the same with writing. Like, you're a very talented writer, but is that a talent, or is that something you've honed over the years to get? Yeah.
Well, it's both, but I feel like a lot of it is just natural. Like when I sit down to do it, and when I can actually beat the resistance and just sit down and just let it flow. Like he talks about the muse. Like if I actually let the muse talk to me and do her thing, it just comes out naturally, I believe. Because I've had no formal training in writing. I had to write a lot. I used to do auditing work, and so you had to write a lot of explanation about what you audited, why what you did was good enough. There's a lot of writing involved, like persuasive writing in that way, but that's completely different. But I mean, I think that helped in a way, like it helps for the kind of writing I do now. But I mean, I was never trained to be a writer. And so I do believe, and I used to write poetry and stuff when I was a kid. And so I think some of that is just naturally in me, but it is also what I resist the most. But I think it goes back to another thing that Pressfield said is, when you're really coming up against resistance hard, it's because you really care about that thing, or it's very important to you. Because that's when resistance is going to hit the hardest. And so I think that's probably why I do resist writing so much, is because it is very important to me.
Yeah, it's interesting. So that could be a test. If you feel resistance, keep in mind that it must be important. So it's probably a good idea to try and push through that because it does mean something to you. Yeah. I've got another quote as well. Oh, sorry. Did you have something else to add?
No, I was just saying you had another quote.
Oh, sorry. Yep. So this one is, resistance is like the villain in a movie. If there were no villain, there would be no movie. Resistance gives meaning to everything. And yeah, I think it's so true. We've kind of touched on it already in this chat, but yeah, it does add a lot more value, and that example about the, me writing the paper and overcoming that difficulty, by pushing through that resistance, that villain, I guess, I was able to, cultivate my critical thinking skills.
Right.
I was able to create a better product. And yes, you could have just just taken the easy road and said, no, it's too hard. But, I think sometimes as well, you just don't have it in you, or at least I found that I was like, no matter how much I feel like giving this thing up, I don't think I really can, because I know what will come out the other side. I will give this up knowing that it's the thing that I'm meant to do. And then I'll just be so frustrated at myself for giving up when it's hard. I'm like, this is what gives meaning to it. It's these moments, learning critical thinking is the most important part, I think, of a PhD. It's not the academic publications. They're just an output. It's the experience of learning critical thinking. So when you're in a business setting down the track, you can think differently to how others think.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't have come across that if not for the resistance, So it's a good example of the villain, I suppose adding value to my movie, I suppose.
No, it's perfect. But it made me think of the Adolf Hitler example from earlier, where depending on how I split this up, you might not have heard this yet, but that Pressfield said that it was easier for Adolf Hitler to start World War II than to paint because I guess he was a painter. Well, I'm like, stick with the PhD, Adam, or else you'll be over there starting World War III.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
but I think it does have the power to break people that way, because like you said, you knew what would come out the other end is like huge regret, and that can really break somebody.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much to break a person, unfortunately. So
and I think there's tests as well along the way. I think as to how much you're willing to put into something. And I've had opportunities along the way to take an easier path.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was presented with that, I was like, no, I'm taking the hard path, because that's the, I know what the easy path is. I've been down it before, and it's not great. Right. So, why don't I try this other path, that's more difficult. But I mean, I guess that's the whole thing with this show, that people will continue to walk down that easy path again and again and again.
Yeah.
Because they can't face the resistance, and they're like, okay, well, you can do that, but just as, Pressfield says, you're probably not going to be very successful.
Right. Well, or even just happy.
Yeah.
Because he says it's, what did he say? Oh, I lost it. Oh, there it is. Most toxic force on the planet. The root of more unhappiness than poverty, disease, and erectile dysfunction. So, I mean, there it is. It's like, if you want to give into it, that's what you can expect is unhappiness. So,
Yeah.
but it's like just something you have to face every day. And hopefully
And
it gets easier.
could you use it, give us any examples of where that villain has added
Yeah,
meaning to your movie this year?
sure. Let me think here. So,
On the spot there,
no,
sorry.
that's fine. I'm just thinking. So, the resistance, like I said, the biggest thing I've been resisting is writing. And also, I'm putting together a course, an introduction to intentional living, and I've been facing a lot of resistance with that. But I think when I get done with this, so I'll focus on the course. This course has become way more than I expected it to be. But I think when I'm done with it, I will have put together this is a huge project with a lot of different pieces. And I've never done anything like that before. So I'm learning, there's so many little different pieces to it that I'm learning so many different things along the way. So I think I haven't seen it to fruition yet, so I don't know, but I got to imagine that when I get through this, whatever I decide to tackle next is just going to be that much better or that much easier to tackle. So
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to it yet. Like you already faced yours and already got to the other side, but.
Well, he gave some advice too, and he just talks about whatever your project is, if you're struggling with it, he's like, write it all down on one single page. Like, have it there, you know, beginning to end, this is what it is. And obviously there'll be the steps along the way that you need to fill in.
Yeah.
But he's like, once you put that project on a single piece of paper, you know, it's less scary, right? Like you've mapped out the core resistance, which is, you know, well, I know that this is the thing, this is the project. Now it's just about filling in, and I suppose, and you know, the project itself. Like it almost in a way says to you, I've already done this. It's done. It's just how I do it along the way, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, because I suppose with your course, like, you know, having done the first week of it, you know, I really enjoyed it. And it's like, but I could see, because of the complexity of it, how it could be so easy for it to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
You know, so that could always be a useful tip, which he apparently does for all of his, you know, his writing, is just to put it on one big page and kind of know what the end will be, so it doesn't continue to just get away from you, you know?
Exactly. Well, it's funny because I kind of did that and I didn't even realize that, but yeah, that's funny because I did. So hey, I'm channeling Steven Pressfield and I didn't even know it.
Well done.
Nice. So now I know that. So now I can go back to that piece of paper and know, okay, that's going to help me will help me get through resistance. So I like that. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
You know, thanks for that, Pressfield. He's a smart man.
Did you have any other quotes or just?
No, that's the end of the quotes. I'm thinking if there was anything else.
Are we good to wrap up, or you got any?
I think we're good to wrap up. Yes.
Awesome. So that was fun. We had to talk about a lot of different things and introduce people to Steven Pressfield, maybe. So
yeah, and we overcame the resistance. Like Amanda and I have had a busy end to the year. A lot of personal things that have popped up, you know, that have made it hard. And I think in a way, we probably have, to a certain degree, come up against a bit of resistance with the podcast, being like, what are we doing? You know, and that was the hardest thing, I thought, is coming back to record after a big break.
Yeah.
Is it's like, oh, like it's hard to record. But I was like, once we push through this, then we'll get ourselves back on track for the new year.
Good. So, all right. So I will wrap things up and I'll say, if you made it this far, thank you so much for sticking around. We really appreciate it. We'd really appreciate your support by just following us, commenting, leave a comment, subscribing on YouTube. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music. You can email us at cheerstonotsettling@gmail.com. You can be so generous as to give us as little as $1 to help us keep this thing going over at Coffee. There'll be a link in the description to do that. And so I think that's everything pretty much. So we'll just say until next time, cheers to not settling.
Cheers to not settling. Bye.
Bye.